Is it their eyes? Their fur? Or simply, their moves? No matter what it is, face it, they're irresistible. It's time to catch up with some of the freshest faces that we share our world with. From sunrise to sunset, be immersed in their lives. Mingle with these youngsters and get to know them and their families better. Experience all the hustle and bustle of their daily routines, all while getting up close to these baby animals in our world. Our day is taking place in and around the world's cities, getting up close and personal with the young creatures that make themselves right at home near our homes. Coming up, get set for plenty of action when a pair of raccoon kits turn this deck into a wrestling arena. Whoops! Plus, a kangaroo Joey's got this leafy neighbourhood jumping, testing out its springy legs. And join these precious little bundles for a sleepover. Fruit Bat Slumber Party. It has been estimated that about 3% of the Earth's surface is taken up by urban areas. And humans aren't the only residents. Wildlife have learned to adapt to the man-made habitats that exist in our cities and suburbs and made themselves right at home. Skyscrapers become substitute mountains and cliffs. Roads become paths. Balcony rails create roosting spots. Ceilings are now hunting grounds. And water features become refreshing ponds. Some animals are classed by ecologists as urban exploiters. Creatures that are able to take full advantage of living so closely to humans. Excellent food supplies being a major bonus. There are also the urban adapters. Animals that are able to share our cityscapes. No perks required. The presence of our wilder neighbours and their babies brings those of us living in an urban jungle a bit closer to nature. Time to explore this world within ours and meet some of its captivating young inhabitants. It's the beginning of a new day. As the sun's rays break across the horizon, the urban animals are slowly starting to warm up. Being in the habit of sleeping for close to 20 hours a day, it's hard for koalas, young or old, to make an effort in the morning. But this Mum and Joey are on the move, searching for the perfect place to hang out for the day. In another part of the world, a raccoon is getting a different perspective on things from its tree bed. While mostly nocturnal, It's not unusual to see youngsters like this out and about during the day. Being part of a very rowdy family, there is no such thing as a sleep-in for ravens. Maybe their perch will give them a boost of energy. Closer to ground level, this eager youngster is already out for a morning climb. Mice are adaptable little creatures. Their nimble legs and feet allow them to move around these branches with ease. Elsewhere in a garden shed, another mouse is having a good sniff around. A packet of seeds could equal breakfast. But what's the rush? Sometimes it's nice just to hang around with Mum. This Joey is building up an appetite, untangling its legs from its furry bedroom. It'll hang around in this pouch until it's 8 months old. Right, bring on breakfast. With so many different creatures living in urban environments, the first meal of the day can take on many forms. Koalas are big fans of eucalyptus leaves. And although they fulfill a koala's diet, they are extremely poisonous to the majority of animals. But pose no problems for this koala Joey, thanks to its adaptive digestive system. Fruit is a healthy choice, but you can only stretch one piece so far. So, to keep the peace, this young capuchin is branching out in search of other taste sensations. But not just any leaf will do. This baby is a bit of a gourmet. This one is deemed perfect. Down on a grassy plain, the bottoms-up technique seems to be working for this hungry moose calf. Occasionally, humans feed wild animals without realizing it. Rodents are especially well-versed in sneaking a quick treat. What's a few small bites between neighbours? A paper packet provides little defence to the incisors of this hungry mouse. Sometimes it's the food for our pets that ends up in the mouths of something else. Even hedgehogs can get milk moustaches. The contents of an unattended dog bowl is up for grabs. It's all too easy for this young skunk to snatch a meal. Oh, maybe the pooch is on its way to eat. For urban diners, opportunity is never far away. With breakfast out of the way, the urban baby animals are ready for some fun. But motivating Mum to get up and go is no simple task. Young, eager explorers have to be persistent. Sometimes, being pushy can pay off. Elsewhere, a fox vixen is teaching her offspring the lay of the land. The world is such a big place outside of the den. But after a month inside, it's time to explore the neighbourhood. Large boulders and vegetation make a natural playground for this curious baby. The perfect place to give its growing muscles a workout. In an orchard, a mother cougar is on the prowl, playing a game of hide-and-seek with her cub. With so many new sights and smells to take in, it's a big adventure for this little kitten. Cougar cubs have bright blue eyes until they're about 18 months old, when their irises turn the same greenish yellow as the adult's eyes. The long grass turns this place into a bit of a jungle. Nothing this explorer can't handle. At this stage, young cougars have striped and spotted coats for camouflage, making this game even more of a challenge for Mom. But with her highly developed senses, she won't be looking for too long. It's time to open the family album. First are some birds known for their distinctive black and white feathers, unique call, and fiercely protective parental instincts. Australian magpies. After building a nest of twigs and small branches, the female will usually lay half a dozen or so eggs. Incubation lasts about 3 weeks, then the chicks hatch. Some magpies can be highly defensive of their territory during breeding season, and they won't hesitate to aggressively swoop at other animals or humans that stray too close. Chicks leave the nest after a month, their parents continuing to feed them until they learn to forage for themselves. By 2 years of age, the parents encourage their offspring to leave their territory and go join another group of birds. Magpies are a common sight in urban areas. They will feed on small insects and other animals that live just below the surface of the ground, making yards and parks great locations to browse for meals. Next is a species that's got a firm grip on urban living: Asian house geckos. Pregnant females like to lay their waterproof eggs in crevices. After 10 weeks, these baby reptiles emerge from their eggs, fully independent. Originally a tree-dwelling species, Asian house geckos use a very handy attribute to take advantage of life inside buildings. Their feet have microscopic toe pads, which act a bit like suction cups, allowing these wall crawlers to stick to almost any surface they please. One of their favourite spots is any ceiling close to a light source. Locations like this provide fast food on demand. For house geckos, it's an insect smorgasbord. But meals are rarely solo, as scaly competitors are never far away. Unlike larger animals, geckos can remain in a household for a long time without being noticed. And in most cases, when they are spotted, they're allowed to stay due to their role as pest controllers. These sticky reptiles can grow to more than 11 centimetres in length and hang around for about 5 years. Just as humans have to bathe and groom themselves, so too do our wild neighbours. This scarlet ibis is using its long curved beak to keep its soft feathers nice and clean. Macaques aren't the only primates that enjoy a good nitpicking session. After checking for traffic, the streets of Ecuador are as good a place as any for these white-fronted capuchins to do some pest removal. Grey kangaroo joeys give hugs while they get their morning spruce. There's no escape from bath time in the pouch. Up in the trees, keeping clean is a team sport for lorikeets. What a caring, sharing bunch. Rainbow lorikeets have all the grooming bases covered, being able to preen with their tongues, beaks, and feet. While some birds are content with just a dry cleaning service, others prefer to literally splash out. A garden pond is just the right size for this starling to shake its tail feathers. And the rest as well. A good session in a bird bath is a refreshing way to clean their skin and dislodge any parasites. A quick dunk for this youngster, then the job's done. Speaking of bath time, in the mountains of northern Japan, there is a special place which is like a natural day spa for the local population of snow monkeys. These hot springs were originally built by humans, for humans. But these smart primates figured out they could escape the sub-zero conditions and enjoy a warm soak in these thermal pools as well. These volcanic springs are the ultimate place for these macaques to hang out. They have a strong troop structure led by females. Mothers look after their babies very carefully, carrying them on their stomachs, or in this case, on their backs, until they're a year old. Males also do their share of looking after young ones by grooming them and protecting them. This independent youngster's doing a great job picking out any fleas or insects its fingers discover. Within the troop, there is a strict social hierarchy, and a lot of time is devoted to maintaining ranks. What better place to while away a chilly morning? Let's leave the snow and head for a warmer neighborhood. Living in green, leafy locations makes many urbanites feel closer to nature. And in most cases, they couldn't be closer to the truth. Trees providing homes to a wide variety of creatures. This tall cluster is like a series of natural apartments for a colony of bats. These are flying foxes, some of the largest bats in the world. Living in built-up areas means there are dangers for these flying mammals, like barbed wire and power lines, so many young ones are orphaned. Thankfully, there are wildlife carers who become foster parents for these leathery-winged babies. In the wild, these babies would be carried on their mother's tummy for the first 4 weeks of life, even when she is flying. Flying fox pups are like human babies. They need lots of care and affection. To keep them snug, tiny babies are wrapped up tight and warm. Being highly social animals, they like to be around other babies. By the time they're 12 weeks old, the pups can start taking short flights. Eventually, they will be strong enough to be released so they can rejoin their wild cousins in their leafy campsites. When it comes to urban wildlife, there couldn't be a more typical city dweller than the ubiquitous pigeon. In New York City alone, their population is thought to be well above the 1 million mark. Pigeons have lived with us for thousands of years. Archaeologists have found the first images of pigeons dating back to at least 3000 BC in what was Mesopotamia. Let's take some time out this morning to look at the whole life cycle of these extremely familiar birds. Pigeon chicks are rarely seen. This is because pigeons nest high out of sight on buildings and bridges, on ledges, and in nooks and crannies. Another reason is that baby pigeons are not introduced to the streets below until they are nearly fully grown. Females usually lay a couple of eggs, which hatch after 18 days. Both parents feed the chicks, known as squabs, with a special milk-like substance. Squabs can double their birth weight in one day. Pigeons like to reuse their nests, so after a few seasons, things can get messy. By 4 weeks, the squabs have fledged, but don't leave the nest until they're nearly 2 months old. There's a lot more to pigeons than first meets the eye. Studies have shown they can remember human faces, even if there's a change in wardrobe. They are not bird-brained at all, with other experiments showing they can understand numbers to the same level as primates. Never underestimate the humble pigeon. Time to head back to Japan and see how the morning is going for these pampered monkeys. While other primates fear the water, snow monkeys are right at home in H2O. So much so, they've been reported to swim for distances greater than half a kilometre. That's at least 10 laps of an Olympic pool. After hours in the hot water, which can reach up to 50 degrees Celsius, looks like the troop are hungry for lunch. Out on the banks foraging under the snow, searching for twigs, bark, insects, even small mammals. This area is known as Hell's Valley and is covered in snow for about a third of the year. So the monkey's long, thick fur keeps them warm. It doesn't take the babies long to learn that huddling is a great way to beat the freezing conditions. They can, in fact, increase their body temperature by 5 degrees just by staying close and cuddling. A cozy way to wrap up a busy morning. Looks like urban animals all over need a midday rest to recoup their energy. Every creature has their own special napping style. For instance, these young capuchins are flat out branch hugging. The face plant is working well for one of these raccoon cubs. A baby boar is trying out the snuffle, then snooze technique. A light sprinkling of rain does make power napping a challenge. So do restless family members. Eventually, young, weary bodies take the hint and give in. Time for the urban wildlife, young and old, to take a well-earned siesta. Cities are always buzzing with energy. And the baby animals that live in and around town certainly know how to get things jumping. A pair of cheeky capuchins can't think of a better way to kick off the afternoon than with a friendly skirmish. Tug of war is always fun too. This roadside puddle is a great spot for a playtime splash. Young raccoons aren't afraid of a bit of rough and tumble either. Oops! This baby's really got the outskirts hopping. testing out its bouncy legs. They're like natural pogo sticks. Almost made it over, Mom. No need for a trampoline in this kid's neighbourhood. Elsewhere, some fox pups have emerged from their den to catch some sun and each other's tails. This youngster doesn't seem to mind its sibling chewing on its tail at all. Some baby animals love to play with their parents, and they won't accept no for an answer. Cheeky capuchin backpacks don't come off easy in this tree. And why just perch on a wire when you can monkey around on them? These feathery acrobats are experts at making their own kind of fun. In this leafy community full of eucalyptus trees, the wilder residents are some of the world's favourite marsupials, koalas. As suburbs expand, koalas have to share their bushland territory with people. For koalas, trees are not only their home, but also their pantry and their shelter. They spend most of their lives high in the branches, rarely venturing to the ground. But when they do, they sometimes get into trouble. This injured youngster has fortunately been rescued and is on its way to recover with this wildlife carer. It seems to have taken to life in a house, substituting trees for people and furniture. While it's rehabilitating, it's getting a good workout, exploring its new environment. In the wild, their sharp claws allow them to scale up trees easily, making climbing up a soft couch an even simpler task. During its travels, it's discovered there's another patient here, of the feathered kind. This magpie lark is another urban survivor, lucky enough to be looked after until it is ready to return to the wild. These two will be great company for each other while they're getting better. When it comes to real estate, urban areas are full of choices for the wilder residents. Some like more traditional homes, the make-it-yourself kind, while others are happy to set up house in pre-made dwellings. Once this woodpecker has finished making a few alterations, this building will make a fine home for its family. While the excitement of inner-city living is appealing, some urbanites enjoy living on the outskirts, where they can enjoy the best of both worlds. Here, they can create spacious digs with plenty of room for the youngsters to play, while still having easy access to the conveniences of town life, such as steady food supplies. You never know when you need to quickly run out for a snack. Suburbia creates a happy medium, especially for growing families. Gardens providing excellent places for residents to rest both above and below ground. Many feathery residents do, however, crave the high life. And humans give them a strong foundation to build on, or under. The eaves of houses and apartment buildings are perfect locations to build their humble, muddy homes. Knowing they have a strong, sturdy roof over their heads means they can concentrate on other household duties, like keeping little hungry mouths well fed. Cities really are melting pots, bringing creatures from all walks of life together, making one big urban family. Time to check out the family album of the brush turkey, a bird that uses mounds of rotting compost to incubate their eggs. Brush turkey chicks don't ever get to see their parents. After 50 days in the nest mound, the hatchlings spend another 2 days digging themselves out. When they make it to the surface, these well-developed chicks are ready and able to fend for themselves. With their distinctive red heads and yellow wattles, brush turkeys are common in towns and cities along the east coast of Australia, usually seen doing what they do best, scratching up leaf litter in search of insects, seeds, and fallen fruit. During breeding season, males spend a lot of their time rustling up nest mounds, using their big feet like rakes to make piles of sticks and leaves which rot to form warm compost. The mounds can be up to 5 meters wide and 2 meters high and house up to 24 eggs. These unusual-looking birds are not a gardener's favourite visitor, but with their remarkably resilient chicks and amazing composting techniques, they should be admired. Next are these popular urban dwellers, sulphur-crested cockatoos. Eggs are incubated for about 25 days, the chicks hatching out naked and blind. It will take a week before they can see. When they're a month old, their pin feathers start to show as rigid spikes that will eventually open to reveal feathers. By 5 weeks, the little chicks have their distinctive yellow crests. These iconic Australian birds are found in nearly every habitat, including cities and towns. They are opportunistic, flying far to find food and water. Sulphur-crested cockatoos are very social birds. They often congregate in huge, noisy flocks with other native parrots, using their strong beaks and tongues to feed on things like grains, leaves, roots, and insect larvae. These lovable cockatoos can brighten up our neighbourhoods with their charming antics and raucous screeches for 20 to 40 years. Living by the beach is considered a luxury by many people. Part of the appeal? Having an aquatic playground right on your doorstep. Quite often, seaside communities share their sandy doorsteps with a wide variety of marine creatures, including large animals like Galapagos sea lions. Humans aren't the only ones who enjoy a bit of sunbathing. Resident colonies of these marine mammals are often seen lounging around on the sand, snoozing on docks, or anywhere else that takes their fancy. Females, or cows, give birth to a single pup. Mothers and their babies form a very strong bond, these duos staying together for about 3 years. Even in a crowded colony, cows and pups can easily reunite with their calls, these loving pairs being able to identify each other's barks. When cows have finished nursing their pups, they often head out to sea for a few days to hunt for themselves. But the youngsters aren't left at home alone. A babysitting female keeps an eye on the pups in a nursery or rookery. These playful, curious sea lions are popular favourites with locals and visitors alike. With human populations ever increasing their spread, urban regions are mingling with the wild in more and more places. With their long migrations, covering up to 5,000 kilometres per year, reindeer often roam close to human settlements. Every year, they return to the same calving grounds where most babies are born within the same 2-week period. Watch as a newborn calf takes its first steps this afternoon. Reindeer, also known as caribou, are born well developed, weighing just over 6 kilograms and can suckle within minutes of their birth. Oops! They can follow their mother within several hours of entering the world, and at just a day old, they can outrun a human. For the first month, it will be a pure milk diet for this little one. Then it will start on grass. Looks like some of the herd have radio collars on, helping researchers better understand their wild ways. Speaking of wild, these free spirits are having a great romp together, giving their growing legs a good workout. Another young animal is finding its feet. Newborn moose calves weigh around 14 kilograms. After 3 weeks of nursing on their mother's rich milk, young moose give browsing a try, staying close to mum for at least a year. Look at that big baby go. It pays for animals living in urban areas to keep a low profile and stay out of sight. Camouflage is an important feature to avoid detection for creatures large and small. Being the exact colour of the fallen leaves helps this little mouse be almost invisible. A fox cub's earthy tones adds to its stealth factor. This muskrat is swimming under the radar, its brown fur helping it disappear in plain sight, both in water and in amongst vegetation. A safe place to enjoy some afternoon tea. High up in the trees, a bird of prey uses the same trick, trying to blend into the surroundings. Another suburban bird that is a master of camouflage is the tawny frogmouth, able to freeze and look exactly like a broken branch. So sneaky. One of the more delicate members of the animal kingdom commonly seen flitting through our gardens and parks are butterflies. These colourful insects happily float through busy neighbourhoods in search of food, a partner, or a quiet place to lay their eggs. Butterfly eggs come in many shapes and sizes, depending on the species. In most cases, eggs are laid on a host plant with leaves that are suitable for her future caterpillars to munch on. In some eggs, the growing caterpillars can be seen through the casing. When they emerge, these tiny babies have huge appetites. Some will even eat their way out of the egg. Using their mandibles, they will chomp their way through countless leaves. For caterpillars, getting enough energy for their upcoming transformation is their #1 priority. As they grow, caterpillars will shed their skin, eventually entering the pupa stage. By hardening their bodies, the caterpillars form a chrysalis. There's not much to see from the outside, but within, a magnificent transformation known as metamorphosis has taken place. When complete, the emergence of a newly formed butterfly is a truly special moment. Blood pumping throughout their delicate bodies expands their wings. And within a few hours, they're strong enough to fly and begin their short but colourful lives as adults. Afternoons are a great time to catch these feathery show-offs in action. Starlings. These birds might be a common sight in our cities, towns and outskirts, but take a closer look and there is a whole lot more to them. A flock of starlings is known as a murmuration, and when in flight, they really know how to put on a show. Each of these individuals operates as one, turning when their neighbour turns, creating mesmerising patterns in the sky. These parents have broken away from the group to feed their family. Starlings like to nest in cavities anywhere. A tree hollow or a crag in a building are equally acceptable. Eggs hatch after 12 days, and within a week, the chicks' eyes are open and they can dine on insects, spiders, and earthworms. In 3 short weeks, they will fledge and be able to join in on the fun, putting on spectacular displays with the rest of the flock. While we might enjoy seeing these birds wheeling around in the sky, there is one disadvantage to sharing our cities with them. These creative little artists really know how to leave their mark. Time to check in on the koalas. This one's going for an afternoon stroll across the park to try out a different tree. In another leafy neighbourhood, this Joey's on a different kind of adventure, exploring the world from the safety of Mum's back. Like other marsupials, it started life as a tiny jelly bean-like baby, weighing just half a gram. As newborns, Joeys can't see or hear, but they do like to feed, as this hand-reared baby is showing. Pouch young sometimes end up in care, artificial teats and special milk formulas giving them a good start in life. After 6 months, the babies have developed enough to be out and about. This youngster's learning the finer details about leaf chewing. This beginner will eventually munch through about ½ a kilogram of eucalyptus leaves per day, just like its mum. Their diet doesn't give them huge amounts of energy though, so sleeping is always on their agenda. And so is snuggling. It's been another busy day in towns and cities in our world. Time for many of the wilder residents to settle in for the night. A pair of lovebirds have a secure place to watch the sunset. Why make a nest in a tree hollow when you can set up house in a cactus? This rosy face can barely keep its eyes open. Neither can these babies. Such big yawns for such small pups. Their carer has bundled them up nice and warm. They look like they're having a slumber party. It won't be long before they're strong enough to rejoin the rest of their family that are just taking off for the nightly fly-out in search of fruit. The dusky sky has become a stage for the starlings to put on their last swirling aerial displays before heading off to their roosting sites. The crows are busy swapping tales about their day under the full moon. With the lights of the city getting brighter, it's time to say goodnight to the urban animals we share our world with.